So in this tutorial, this series of videos, I'm going to start showing you through some different methods of object-oriented programming. Now, what we've done to begin with, I've shown you how to set up a class. I have explained how it's like a blueprint, but we also talked a little bit about encapsulation and how you have getters and setters, all right? And the idea being that you use the interfaces to handle the data rather than saying, for example, in play equals. What you can do is actually you can set the value by passing in parameters. So we use methods to do this rather than changing the individual attributes. And that's a good way of doing object-oriented coding. So when you see the method, that's how you change it. That's the idea of this, all right? Now, I'm just going to comment out some of the code that we did in the previous lesson, because in today's lesson, I'm going to go over the point of inheritance, all right? So I've got my main class up here. In fact, I'm going to move this down. So the way that inheritance works is you have a parent class. So my parent class is this one. Now, when you play a game of chess, what you need to think about is each piece has a color. So I could call that color if I wanted. Each piece has a type, all right? So whether it is a queen or a pawn and so on. It has an owner. Is it white? Is it black? And is it in play? So all pieces share these attributes and they will change. Now, when the game is started, it's set to true. Now, we want to inherit these methods, okay? We want to be able to use these attributes for all of them, but some of them behave differently. This is why you would set up a new class. So we're going to create a new class, and it's going to be a pawn, but we're going to inherit piece. The idea is that we inherit all of these methods. However, pawns have a number of different pawns. Like you should have 8 on the board, whereas like a queen, you would only have 1. So we need to remember that they behave differently. So I've got my new class called pawn setup, and I've inherited piece. What you need to do, the same with the others, is you need to initialize, and I'm going to self owner pawn number. So I've got my initialization here. Super. So initialize underscore pawn. I will explain this in a moment. Self.pawn underscore number equals pawn number. So I've initialized that class now in the sense of I've set up all of my attributes that I need. The next step I need to do is create my method that is only associated with a pawn, which is get pawn number, and that's that, return string self.pawn underscore number. Make sure you check your attributes. I'm just going to run that. Currently, it will do nothing, but we're going to run it to just double check for any errors. Good. So here's my main class, but you'll notice here, what I've done is I've inherited all of those attributes and all of those methods inside the class pawn, all right? I've created, now what I'm going to do is create an instance of this. So I'm going to be piece1 equals pawn, and it's going to be black, and it's going to be pawn number 1. So I could actually create, say, the 8 pieces by doing piece 1, piece 2, piece 3, piece 4, and so forth, all right? Now that is declared by passing the name of the parent class. So to do inheritance, I passed piece in here. Now, when the pawn piece is invoked, the init method, all right, for the pawn class makes a call to the method of the parent class using the term super, all right? So you can see that here. So let me just say that again. When a pawn piece is invoked, only the owner is required. So I only need the owner. Now, what I can do with that, all right, is I use the term super and automatically pass the type as pawn. This is known as attribute overriding. So I've overridden the attribute. So the piece type here that was originally there, I've overwritten. All right. So I've overwritten pawn. So remember again, you have piece type and owner, but I've overwritten it by using the word pawn. So this is known as attribute overriding, and it's possible to do the same with methods. You can override the method. If there was a behavior of moves, I could override that as well. So I've now got this set up, all right? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to print out all of the information. So I've got piece1.get piece type, and I'm going to go piece1.get owner, piece1.get in underscore play. Make sure I put my bracket back there. Piece1.get underscore pawn underscore number. Now, if I run that now, let's see. It's got my pawn, which is the piece type, which I've overridden by using the word pawn. I've got get owner. So again, get owner was in the parent class. I've got get in play. Again, that was in the parent class. And then I've got get pawn number, which was in my pawn class. All right. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, the other thing I can do is I can also do piece1.set in play false. Remember I talked about getters and setters. So I can now change, imagine that the pawn has been taken in part of the game, all right? I can change that, because again, that was done in the parent class, not in this class. I can now change that value. This is why we use getters and setters. Now, if I print that out now, you will see pawn black false 1. So run that again, because I've used a setter to change the outcome of that. Now, there is also the term polymorphism, all right? This is the name, all right? It's given to the ability of a programming language to treat methods differently depending, sorry about that, on the class that they are in. In OOP, this method is called overriding, and it can be achieved when a method in a child class has the same name. In this case, the method in the child class will always override the method. This even applies to the init method, so just be aware. So I can override the behavior by creating in here. If I was to do change this method, if I was to put this method in here, but change it slightly, imagine I said print hello before I did it, or let's say print, let's go for pawn, let's go for item in play. Now, what you might see pop up on the screen here is that prints that out, item in play. So you can see I've overwritten this method, I've overwritten the get in play method with adding that to the pawn. So polymorphism is the idea of overriding the original one, but you need to make sure you use the same name so that you can change the behavior from the original. So that is a quick example of polymorphism, and that video should help you understand inheritance with the idea of this chess game.